Okay, I have said this 15 times. I haven't done a live in a while. I wanted to take a second, and I will repost this, to address some things. One, thanks everybody for asking about my family. They're fine. They're way uptown. There's no problems there, whatever. I called them and told them that I thought it would be best if they left the city because they're not used to dealing with Proud Boys or people of this nature. But they've assured me that they're fine. So thank you everyone who checked in. Number two, for those of you in Colorado and other areas, I am from Washington, D.C. Both my parents worked for either the federal government or for contractors that work directly with the federal government. Growing up in DC, you know a couple of things that the rest of the country doesn't know. Particularly with my mom working in the White House, my dad working for the World Bank, things like that. There are secure facilities and secure bunkers, things like that, all up and down where the Senate is. I had the opportunity as a National Youth Congressional Leadership Delegate to actually go into the Capitol, to sit in the seats of Congress, in the seats of the House, and to see the underground train system that the Senate has. The senators, all the people in the House, all that stuff, they're safe. I know that there are reports of like some people being barricaded inside the Capitol. There are security measures that we don't know about inside the Capitol, and there's an underground rail line that runs between all the Senate houses, and there's like an underground mall area that goes from like the Capitol area to LaFont Plaza, all that kind of stuff. DC has protests weekly, daily. I had the opportunity to participate in the Million Man March and to participate in the anonymous, the faceless masks when I was younger, and also Occupy DC when there were 10,000 people in the city. There was a very uniform, professional way that they handled those protests. They knew that they were happening in advance. They brought in people, and they had like the streets lined, and then you have snipers on the roof, you have helicopters flying over, all the goodies that we saw with the BLM protests downtown without the violence. Occupy, or at least the sections that I were in, were relatively peaceful in the daytime, and then it was an absolute shit show at night, but it was fine. DC police are trained for a whole different level of protest violence and riots and things like that, and like a couple occur there a year. It's just par for the course. A lot of you guys that went down to the protest with me kind of didn't understand my understanding or my methods or my tactics or things like that. And a lot of that was coming from my involvement in protests in DC when I was younger. And when I was a kid or in like high school and college, we, go up in buses. We go up all the time. You have contingents. It's very organized. You have people on loudspeakers. We have our own communications systems, all that kind of stuff. My opinion, watching what happened today, like I was in class, I'm chilling, everything's gravy, and then someone's like, yo, they got inside the Capitol. The first thing I went was, there's no way. I've been inside the Capitol. I've had family members work inside the Capitol. There's no way. There is no way that this was not an inside job. There is no way. I'm just going to say that from my experience and a bunch of other people's experiences. There's no way. They kept talking about, they didn't have the manpower. They didn't have the forces. Why do we think that is? Maybe because some of those people were in the crowd? The police? Where were they? Did they take a day off? Did a lot of people take PTO? That's my thought. But weapons got into the Capitol. Explosives got into the U.S. Capitol. How? There are metal detectors when you go to walk in. To even get in now, particularly during coronavirus, there's a screening procedure. And you have to give them your name or your passport and your address. And they've got heat scans on you, chemical scans. There's dogs in there. The second that you even get close to go up into there, you can't even do tours anymore. You used to be able to like just do a tour and go, but particularly during coronavirus and also just in the last couple of years after the domestic terrorism stuff started happening, you can't just walk into the Capitol. I understand that they stormed the Capitol and they broke windows. First of all, if black people had done that, there would have been bodies everywhere. I'm furious. Okay? Anyone that stood with me and stood with us during BLM, and thank you. Okay? This is still relevant. All right? We still have our issues with the government, but this is not it. We're not part of this team. We're not on the same team. There's no way. Okay? I have seen riots, like straight up, like, oh, I got to get on the metro and get out of here. And hey, let's go rendezvous, down here, let's just meet up in Adams Morgan and get a drink and watch this shit on TV level riots, not get within 100 yards of the Capitol. This was bullshit. And that's what they're not telling everyone on the news. That's not what they're telling people. This had to have been an inside job. And when you watch the news right now, they keep saying, oh, there's a blackout. We're not getting information. That's standard DC protocol. Every year on the 4th of July, I like to go back for the 4th of July. It's my favorite holiday in DC. I think we have the best fireworks in the country. Every year on the 4th of July, they run an emergency drill for a terrorist attack. This emergency drill consists of all the roads in the city being changed directions from one way. A lot of them are one way, all of them become one way out of the city. So everyone is forced out of the city. It's right after the fireworks. They do this emergency drill. There are sirens. They run ambulances. They run cameras to, the news is down there. And then they give the city a report card every year on the 4th of July of how they deal with this mock terrorist attack. And I think they change every year what it is, and they change the central, whatever ground zero is. We had a drill where there was supposedly a bomb on the metro. They clear that metro train in 3 minutes, okay? And they cleared metro and shut it down in 5 minutes. Please explain to me, somebody explain to me from DC why it took 5 hours for the National Guard, the DC National Guard, to show up on the Capitol. I'm sorry, what? And now the city's crawling with feds, and now it's crawling with police forces and all that. There is and you could have gone online and seen about this protest. I knew about this protest here 4 days ago. And I didn't think that this was going to be bad. You got to be kidding me. Okay, number 2, the Capitol and the White House and the Senate all have anti-aircraft missiles on the roofs of their buildings, okay? We are literally the most militarized country in the entire world. In the entire world. You can't set foot on the White House lawn on Pennsylvania Avenue without somebody having a camera and scanning everything that's in your fucking pockets. Let's be real. I know this for a fact because a family member of mine helped design the technology that does this, okay? The Congress people that are bunkered downstairs in the basement in Congress aren't even under Congress. They're in a secure bunker somewhere else. I don't know where it is. And I wouldn't say anyway because it's a matter of national security. So once they garrisoned them, they weren't really a matter of danger. The fact that they were allowed to sit in the Capitol for that long is one of 2 things. This was either a massive psyop to try and unite the country under the current rule as it has been, because, none of us are currently happy with the government how it is. This is not the way to handle it, but none of us are happy with it. Or these people are really just as crazy and they're fucking stupid, which they are. I'm sorry. That group of fat, lazy, uneducated Americans was never going to take over Congress. Let's be real. All right? That place is crawling with feds. But it means this has to have been, thank you, Tamsin, has to have been an inside job. Somebody gave the order somewhere to stand down. It doesn't mean that each and every individual federal person, and this is not what I want you to take from this, it does not mean that each federal personnel or military personnel or whatever was ineffective, was not good at their job. That's not what it means. It does not mean that our military is incompetent. Our military is extremely, extremely good at blowing shit up, at quelling rebellions, and at following orders. Everyone in the military is trained to follow orders. What this means is that someone high up in the chain of command, and this is not a far cry to believe because Trump really likes to get rid of people that oppose him and put people that he likes in positions of power. What this means is someone somewhere gave the order to stand down, or someone passed bad intelligence to the U.S. military, to the DC police, to the federal police, to the National Security Agency, to the Department of Homeland Security, to the Marine Corps, to the Secret Service. Who else is in Washington, D.C. that's supposed to be there for security? I'm missing a branch entirely. United States Air Force Intelligence. 7 different branches that all exist and have offices in D.C. that all have their own separate police forces. And that's outside of the secret police that are in D.C. Okay, you can't walk around D.C. and throw a rock without hitting a Fed. Someone passed bad intelligence saying this wasn't going to be that big of a deal. Somebody didn't listen or didn't take Trump seriously. and didn't take him ranting on Twitter that he was going to do exactly this and has been for 6 months. Y'all who know me, I've lost so many friends on Facebook. I don't care, because I knew this was going to happen. Like, literally has been saying he's not leaving for 6 months. When a narcissistic sociopath says some shit like that, listen to them, because they're probably like gonna do what they say that they're gonna do. Thanks, Angelica. But like, literally 7 different types of police force outside the secret police. Outside of, also, let's talk about the international police forces. You've got UN peacekeeping forces there. You've got people that work for the embassies that have no allegiance to the United States government, that are constantly back and forth giving and taking intelligence about the United States government, that are going to go back to their home countries and say, yo, the US let their own, citizens, their own domestic terrorists walk inside the Capitol, shoot somebody, she's dead now, set off a bunch of fireworks and set off explosives. That's bad for our national security. Okay? Now that's going to make a lot of other countries think that they can just fucking do this. Let's talk about Navy intelligence. Okay? Annapolis. Like, what the hell? We are missing something here. Okay? The other thing, and I'm going to switch tacks here for a little bit. They ignored intelligence, and that was bad. No, or they gave bad intelligence deliberately. I think that's more likely. Okay? Because I've grown up around people from DC. I've grown up around like my family. Like, I grew up there. There's a reason I'm paranoid as hell. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm like insanely paranoid. There's a reason for that, because I've seen some shit. I've known about some stuff. I've had like a couple of close calls, just personal knowledge. I've seen feds crawl out of bushes during a protest downtown. Okay, like, these dudes do not play. And then like dudes on the ground. Also, the other thing that I have an issue with, none of these protesters, it seems, are getting arrested. What's that about? What was the body count after BLM this summer? I think Zach Landis said it was 19 people. I think it was way higher than that, and that's just what was reported. Oh, and then let's remember that we had federal agents running around in vans in Portland and shoving people in the backs of vans, and they disappeared and appeared in like fucking Guantanamo or in Puerto Rico, beat the fuck up and having been interrogated. That was after BLM. I didn't see a single person get arrested today. I didn't see a single person with a rubber bullet wound. There was no detention. BLM DC did a fantastic job telling people to stand down. That was awesome. That was a smart move. I didn't see a single protester get tear gas. From what I heard, and maybe there was some tear gassing, was that the protesters had their own makeshift handmade tear gas. Please explain to me how tear gas got into the Capitol, because there are drug dogs outside the Capitol. The last time that I tried to go to the Capitol, or when I went as a National Youth Congressional Leadership Delegate, the representative from Northern Virginia, I went, and you go through the metal detectors, and then they did our whole like orientation. They don't really pat you down because we were kids, but other people get patted down. If you have a suitcase, they check your suitcase. I understand these people broke windows and came in en masse in a mob, but normally there's like 10 or 15 fucking feds at the front door, especially while Congress is in session. And 9 times out of 10, nobody like is allowed in when Congress is in session. So somebody got in early and let everyone in. This is the most heinous and most egregious example of white privilege I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's also a major, major national security issue. Our country better be running drills for weeks after this. What I'm worried about now from this point is not only these psychos, because you know they're not going to leave DC. What I'm worried about is other countries seeing this as a weak point while we are deliberating and while we are struggling and while we're trying to figure our shit out. That's when terrorism happens. That's when international terrorism happens. That's when people try to decide to blow things up. Because we've already deployed all our feds and all our, agents and all that kind of stuff, and they know that we've got cracks in the system now. And please explain to me how we have cracks in the system with a $60 billion Pentagon budget. It's unacceptable. So what this president has done is not only undermine the faith of the rest of the world in our country, he's undermined the faith of the people in the country. He's split the country into 2 factions, not 2 parties, 2 factions, a seditious faction and a constitutionalist faction. I don't give a fuck if you're Republican. But if you're pro-Trump, you're not an American anymore. And you haven't been for a while. You're seditious. It's like the South in the Civil War, not part of America, not part of the Union, not the same country, not on the same team. And also, he's exposed major holes in our national security. We had a domestic terrorist attack in Memphis. That's what this kind of chaos, that's what this kind of person, that's what this kind of bad, poor leadership causes. And it is unacceptable. And people are going to die because of it. People are going to die. I may jump back on later and talk about what I think is going to happen, because I don't think this is done. These people aren't going to leave. I mean, the city's crawling with feds now. And like my family's like, oh, they're going to handle it. They're going to take care of it. If you were in the BLM protests, you know that's not how this works. If you have any active understanding of how the Proud Boys works and how they think like a militia and how they act like a militia and the tactics that they use and why blockades were set up, cities like Seattle, cities like Portland that had to fight against, what they believed was police brutality. These people have a lot of these tactics as well, but they have other ones. Like, again, how the fuck did bombs get into the Capitol? I don't think this is done. I think that this was kind of a smokescreen. I think they sent the men, the women, and the children in to be like, oh, leave Daddy Trump in office. And I think while they're doing that, somebody's planting bombs around the city. Or I think that while they're doing that, they're off, in corners doing the real work, doing the other stuff, trying to get into the tunnels, trying to kidnap representatives, things like that. This is a coup, okay? Coups do not end in 6 hours, 8 hours. There's going to be some kind of a standoff. And our country is going to have to come down really, really hard on these domestic terrorists. And if we don't, then not only are we the laughingstock of the world, which we have been for the majority of the last year, but we leave ourselves open to invasion from a foreign power. And these people were so worried about, China, Russia, whatever. Worry about yourselves. Worry about Billy Bob, who's a psycho and thinks that Donald Trump is like Jesus and is making bombs in his fucking bathtub. That's the real terrorist. America's blind spot, our biggest national security crisis right now, the fourth time ever that people have entered Congress during an active session, the fourth time, today, white supremacists, domestic terrorists, racists, the KKK, and that was their blind spot. Oh, hey, let's recruit white supremacists to law enforcement. Let's let them in. And let's give them intimate knowledge of how our security systems and protocols and our weapons work. And then let's send them out into the world. We created this situation by letting that cancer fester in our country for so long. And look where it has gotten us. It has gotten us sedition. It has gotten us treason. It has gotten us an insurrection. It has gotten us a coup. And while this is going on, for all my stock friends, I'm watching the US dollar plummet right now. And you know what? Honestly, maybe it's about time. Maybe they're going to learn. This was in some ways almost like a fire sale. Almost. I mean, weak. But, like our dollar is crashing right now. The Senate's going to be fine. The House and Congress are going to be fine. They wrote themselves a $150 billion tax write-off and a huge defense bill, and they all have bunkers that they can go hide in. We don't have shit. So we better start weeding out these terrorists out of our community and out of our society, and the FBI better wise up and start realizing that they're the real threat and not black people. I've never seen a black person break a window in a government building ever. And if they did, I wouldn't say anything about it because they'd be dead. This white supremacists are the biggest threat to national security in the United States. End of story. End of story. So, and yeah, there's no way this wasn't an inside job. There's no way. There's no way you got past, the best intelligence supposedly in the world and 9 different national security agencies. Gotta think. All right, I'm signing off, guys. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for all the love. I just had to say that because, people weren't really getting it. They were like, oh, this is funny. This is not funny. And stay hip. Anybody that is on Parler or on, Reddit or whatever that hears anything going on here, please let me know. I like to keep people safe and help let people know what's going on here, too. Because anytime something goes on in the Capitol in D.C., they tend to try to mirror it here. I've noticed this. There's always like, and apparently they're trying to get into the Capitol in Atlanta right now. So anyone that wants to go to that feed too to check that out. They are also, Proud Boys are trying to storm the Capitol in Atlanta right now and overturn the results of the election. Check on your family, check on your friends, have your emergency protocols in place. This feels to me, and I've been saying it for months, and I've been having dreams about it for months, like the beginning of a coup. We ain't having this, but we need to learn. And white supremacists and the good old boys from down south and the homies have been our blind spot. They're the terrorists, not people like me, not us. All right, have a good evening.